Hi, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. All right, so we've been reading expository nonfiction. The next few things that we're going to be reading is expository nonfiction, but they're going to be articles. Now, articles, you might find them in the newspaper, a magazine, or online. So before we read an article from our student response book, just think to yourself for a minute, what newspapers, magazines, or websites have you read? And then also think, why do people read magazines or newspapers or articles online? Why do they do that? Think to yourself or tell somebody why. Okay, so you guys get to follow along with me. You have your student response book, so go ahead and pull that one out. It's on page 34, 35. Now, the first part of the article describes how this game of hopscotch works and how it became popular around the world. We're going to read the first part, and I want you to follow along in your student response book, page 34, 35. All right, it's called Hop to It, Fancy Footwork. It says, looking for a fun outdoor game? Grab a piece of chalk, a stone, and a friend. What can you play? Hopscotch. The first hopscotch courts were made around 2,000 years ago. Imagine a hopscotch court 100 feet long, about the length of a professional basketball court. That's how big the first courts were. They were not made for fun either. Instead, they were used for a training exercise. Roman soldiers would dress in heavy armor and run from one end of the court to the other and back again. This exercise helped them to stay quick on their feet. Now we're going to go down to the next section called Hopping Around the World. Roman children watched the soldiers and imitated them. They drew smaller courts on the ground with chalk and made their own rules. Hopscotch became a game. Their game was simple to learn, yet challenging to play. It quickly became popular throughout Europe, and later it spread to Asia and America. In every country, children changed the game in their own way. In France, the court is drawn in the shape of a snail. In Bolivia, the squares in the court are named for the days of the week. In the United States, hopscotch is played in many ways. For example, in Alaska, the squares are not named or numbered. Hopscotch is a simple game with a long history. Over the centuries, it has spread all over the world. Hopscotch proves that the simplest games are often the most popular. So let's pause there for just a second and think, okay, what have we learned about the game of hopscotch so far? Tell somebody in your house, think about it, write it down. You can pause me if needed because I'm going to go to the next section. Okay, so now we're on the next page. We're going to focus at the top where it says how to play. It says to play a game of traditional hopscotch, all you need is one traditional hopscotch court. You can draw one with chalk, one stone, and 2 or more people, and make sure all the players know these rules. A player must toss the stone into every square in sequence. Players must land with only 1 foot in any square. Players can't land on a line. Players can't hop into any square that is holding a stone. A player's turn ends if he or she breaks any of the above rules or if the stone doesn't land in the right square when it is tossed. When it's your turn, toss the stone into square 1 and then hop on one leg into square 2. Next, jump into squares 3 and 4 so that your left foot is in square 3 and your right foot is in square 4. Continue to hop and jump to the end of the court, making sure that only 1 foot lands in each square. Now, turn around in the home square and hop to the beginning of the court, pausing to pick up the stone in square 1 before you hop out. Once you've completed the first pass through the court, toss the stone into square 2 and hop through the court again, hopping over the square that has your stone in it and picking up the stone on your way back. Continue throwing your stone into the next square and hopping through the court again until you step on a line or fall. Then it's the next player's turn. When it's your turn again, continue by tossing the stone into the last square you aimed for. The first player who is able to hop through the course with his or her stone in the last square is the winner. Okay, so let's pause there for just a second and think, what did we find out about playing a traditional game of hopscotch? And my next question is, is this how you play hopscotch? And if not, what do you do differently? Okay. My next question is from your book. There are those illustrations on the left of that green box that we just read titled How to Play. So those illustrations, it says that it's a traditional hopscotch court, has 8 or 10 squares, and once you have learned how to play and how to hop on one leg, it's a lot of fun. How does these illustrations help you understand the info that was in the article? Okay, let's read the last section. Hopping in France is first. It says, in the French hopscotch game, no stone is used. The player hops through the spiral shape from square 1 to square 17. Then the player hops back to the beginning. Choose a square. Then the player hops back to the beginning, chooses a square, and writes his or her name inside it. The other players must hop over this square, and the game is over when it becomes too hard for anyone to hop to the center. The player whose initials are written inside the most squares is the winner. Interesting. Okay, let's read the last little part. It says, an Alaskan pastime. In the Alaskan version of hopscotch, the court has a side pocket. You can pay attention to the diagrams on the side so you can see where their side pocket is. The player stands inside the side pocket and tosses the stone into the first square. The player then hops diagonally into the second square, skipping the square, holding the stone, and hops to the end of the court. The player hops back to the second square, picks up the stone, hops out, and gives the stone to the next player. That player tosses the stone into the second square and repeats the pattern. If a player tosses the stone and it does not land in a square, that player is out. The players repeat the pattern until one person is left, the winner. All right. So let's just discuss, now that we've learned a bit about hopscotch, let's just think, how has hopscotch changed since Roman times? Turn and tell somebody, or think it to yourself. And then my last question is, what did you learn about hopscotch that surprised you? What surprised you? All right, you guys, well, it's your turn. It's your turn to go find a nonfiction book or article or magazine or something online, something that interests you, anything that's nonfiction, and get comfortable and enjoy reading. See you next time.